What is going on, wrestling fans? It is I, Steve Fall, and today I am honored, I am privileged to talk to a man that had to decide between either Surfer Sting or WolfPac Sting. It's Stephen Borden, the son of Sting. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Steve?
Oh man, I am doing great. And great name, by the way, Steve. Very handsome name, very confident, very beautiful. I love that name so much. But let's talk about your experience over this past weekend because I was at Revolution as a member of the media enjoying the festivities. But you were there in a whole different aspect. So let's start from the beginning. What was the atmosphere backstage preparing for your father's last match?
Man, it was a phenomenal atmosphere. I think it's one of those things where everybody's very aware that this was the end. And so not just his final match, but maybe his final time being back there in that capacity. Of course, he's not just going to disappear and never see AEW again, but his final time prepping, putting his gear on. And so there was a finality to it. And so I think speaking for myself and how it felt, at least, it felt like everybody just kind of wanted to hold on to every moment. Everything felt like the last. A lot of kind words were said to him, said to Garrett and I about him. It was an overwhelmingly good experience, top to bottom.
I know. I wonder how you get ready. It's like, okay, you show up at the arena at a certain time, and everybody who's there obviously wants to say goodbye to you. And, you did a great job, and I've always watched you, and I dressed up as you, and so on and so forth. Like, I imagine it's hard to get your boots tied when everyone's trying to tell you how great you are. But so throughout the night, are you by your father's side singing the entire single night?
Most of the night, but then we part off. So we had a lot of family there as well. Some of my dad's friends and family, and obviously people that he wrestled with back in the day. Lex was there, Dallas Page, a lot of those guys. So kind of bouncing in between seeing everybody and then his room. You try to give him a little bit of space because as much as I'm his son, I'm still another person that he has to. It was a technical match, and it was his last match. There's a lot of pressure, so he's trying to get in the zone a little bit and think. And so we parted off, but yeah, we spent quite a bit of time together, especially the last couple hours before he went out.
Now, interesting enough, though, so when I was in the crowd and you see this beautiful moment of this video package playing for your father's last match, but then Surfer Sting walked out, and my mind kind of melted for a minute because I'm thinking, wow, he looks in incredible shape. He looks look at that. Wait a minute. Here comes Wolfpack Sting now, which was you. So tell me how that process works. What are you guys deciding on? Because you used to have long hair. And obviously you don't right now, mine's falling out, but yet you somehow have long hair again. Take me through the process of, first off, why did you choose Wolfpack Sting, or was that put on you?
Yeah, so originally it was going to be, I was actually just going to be Crow Sting. Garrett was going to do Surfer. And the reason why we landed on those two is it was actually never, there was no debate or conversation about it. It was always, we just kind of knew Garrett was going to do Surfer and I was going to do Crow, some variation of Crow Sting. Um, and then it was actually Darby who mentioned at one point, man, well, isn't it kind of weird that Garrett's going to be Surfer and then Steven's going to be Crow, and then you're also going to be Crow? He said that to my dad. So it was actually a good point. I was just going to be the same as him, and we thought let's give an opportunity for fans to at least experience a few different eras, and also it provides some contrast, just visually red and versus the white and black. So that's how we landed on that. And then yeah, the process of the hair. I was pretty bummed that I had cut my hair already because it would have been an easier process. That said, Mirandon, who did the wig, was incredible. She did a super good job. Just a 45-minute process of getting that thing on there. And I told her to put it as tight as humanly possible because the thought of that thing flying off the back of my head, on my dad's last night would have been, it would have been bad enough that it flew off. It would have been worse seeing what was underneath there because in order to get it on,
Oh, you like
she
a
had
ball
to,
cap?
oh yeah, full cap. She had to slick my hair down with a bunch of gel, part it down the middle. It would have been horrendous. So I'm glad that thing stayed on there.
That is true. That is true. And so, right before you walk out there, does your father give you any advice of like, hey, just be yourself or be just like me? Like, what is the advice your father gives you before you walk out in front of 16,000 people ready to scream for him?
He's pretty good at it. I mean, he obviously knows Garrett and I, so his perspective was like, let's not try to plant a bunch of different thoughts in Steven's head or Garrett's head about how they should or shouldn't be. Just kind of let them go out and do it. Um, and so it wasn't like, yeah, make sure to impersonate me in this manner, or do this because I did this. It was like, let's just go out there, and ultimately, you know, it wasn't about us at all, anyways. And I think that especially the second that my dad walked out there, people could care less about Surfer or Wolfpack Sting. So it was just basically go out there and have fun and enjoy the ride.
Now, was anyone coaching you on those stinger splashes? Because listen, your brother, he got some air, we'll admit it. But you, sir, I thought at one point you were gonna just like fly into front flip and then hit a splash. You were jumping so high in the sky. Who was giving you advice? Because boy, man, you were ready to cream someone with those splashes. Man,
I think people, the assumption was that Garrett and I grew up doing stinger splashes, every weekend or something. We had our first attempts were the day before,
Oh,
and so not a ton of practice. And it's something that looks so simple, but strategizing where you don't overshoot is kind of it's more difficult than it seems. And so I was joking earlier, if that was the free throw line that I pulled up from, I probably could have pulled up from half court if I really went for it. um, but you know the last thing you want to do is overshoot and go over the top on your dad's last ride. So just a few cues from my dad to have fun and jump high.
the day before, who is sitting in the ring with you going over this? Just your father, or who's sitting there taking these splashes? Are you jumping into just the turnbuckle?
Oh yeah, just the turnbuckle, and we'd have a couple guys come in, just friends, and have them take those hits.
Yeah, man. Because yeah, that was you were flying, dude. You were flying. And is there a future? Do you have one? Have you ever desired to actually be a professional wrestler in now AEW? Clearly, with the Sting connection and with you being there, like it's just an easy access.
So that's a loaded question. Let me caveat this first. Um, Easy access, I think, is I understand what you're saying because my dad is Sting and
Yeah.
he's all time great. But it is sort of presumptuous for me to, because I've seen tweets and I've had friends text me and say, have you decided what do you want to go out there? Have you ever thought about going out there? And it's sort of presumptuous for me to assume that it would be my decision. It'd be my decision to try, but it's not my decision to be accepted either by AEW or by the fans. At this point, they care about my dad. They don't care. He's somebody. He earned the right to be in the ring and have the stardom. I have not earned that. And so yeah, easy access is I wouldn't call it that the case at all. And to answer the question, I just wanted to get that caveat out of the way first, and then to answer the real question. For my whole life, the answer to that question has been no. It's very clear to me. It was my dad's thing. I think my brother was the same way. Just never. I just liked leaving it as his thing, and I wanted to play professional football for a long time.
Right.
So up until several years ago, that was what I thought I was going to be doing. Didn't quite pull that one off, and I think maybe in the last months of my dad's career, maybe last year, it's that answer's maybe gotten a little bit more murky, and part of that might be because I part of that might be because I'm not ready to see him step aside. Um, he's been Sting for my whole life, and it's just an odd experience to watch it all go away. And then part of it is probably just I've grown up. Obviously, I have his genes, and we joke and we talk and we have similar mannerisms and things like that. And so I've heard throughout the course of my life, man, you're so much like your dad. I'm sure Garrett's heard the same thing, and you remind me of your dad in X, Y, or Z way. And part of me wonders if you know he's my dad is electric, and he's electric, and part of me wonders if how strong his genes are, if any of that electricity was passed down, if all those comments over the years were just people being nice, or
Mm,
if if that's real. And the only way to really find out the answer to that question is to put yourself in the arena and let the world judge for themselves. um, so that's I think those are probably two elements: not wanting to see that side of my dad go,
yeah,
and then maybe wanting to answer a question for myself. That said, I'm in a position right now where it doesn't make a ton of sense for me to jump into wrestling, and this is all so hypothetical and theoretical that um, I'm just shooting from the hip here and giving you an honest answer of
of
my
course.
current cognitive position.
Yeah. Well, it's always pressure of anybody who's in wrestling. If you know your father, then you know the history of professional wrestling a little bit. Where second generation wrestlers, they either succeed or they get compared to their father or mother the entire time, and they never get beyond that. And no one can see beyond. Hey, the only reason you're here is because you're Sting's son. And look at Ric Flair, Charlotte Flair, perfect example. She for years received that. Obviously, she beat those rumors and awful voices that would say those things. But with you, I could see the pressure 100% of, hey, maybe I want to do this, maybe I don't want to do this, but I don't want to do it right now. But at the same time, you are going to feel that pressure, obviously, of being the son of Sting. It's not that's going to be like forever. Like unless you change your name when you came out and pretended you weren't the son of Sting, well then that's off you completely. It'd be
And
shocking to find out.
I'm not going to be capable of jumping in, out the building at some point in my life down the road, however many years away that is. I'm not always going to be able to do that. So that's, there's a time element as well. But again, it's like, you know, yeah, I've spoken my piece on that. I think, nobody really owes anybody anything. And so I'm just super rad.
Yeah, man. It was outstanding to see the bond, and of course, even after the pay per view ended, there you are with your father. You're hugging in the ring. Everyone's hugging your father. Like again, that's going to be a really nice moment to know that like your wig didn't fly off your head. You hit those splashes. Darby went through glass and still got up. Your father went through glass and still got up. Like everything that could have gone wrong did not go wrong. Everything was perfect. And that's what I think is a great moment is other wrestlers who say had their last matches, it didn't end perfect. This ended with hugs and tears and standing ovations. It was like a movie. So like you're in the ring. How does that experience make you feel? Because your father, I asked him at a press conference, I'm like, did you ever want to get out of that ring? Like it felt like you never wanted to leave that ring because once you do, it's done. And that experience with your father as well. Once you leave the ring, it's done. Like, what was that feeling? Did you ever want to step out and be like, I don't ever want to leave this because this is such a good feeling?
It was so relieving. Like the second that Garrett and my small part came to a conclusion, we sprinted backstage to get to the TV because the sport of it's obviously a very physical sport. Anything can go wrong, and I think it's easy to just think the match is going to go the way it goes and everything's going to be fine. But Darby was doing some wild stuff. My dad was doing some wild stuff that a 25-year-old could get hurt doing. And he's got a couple decades on that. And so my biggest concern was, okay, as long as my dad stays healthy and as long as Darby stays healthy, we're good. They're going to get through it. Like they're pros. But I knew that some gnarly stuff was going to happen. So the relief standing there in the ring at the very end, knowing not only that nobody got hurt, but that it went well and everything was executed properly. And my dad was happy. He's such a critical person of himself. So to see him, I know you were there at the press conference at the end. He had really positive things to say about the match. That was for me the biggest relief ever. My wig could have flown off my head, and as long as he's happy, I would have been fine with that.
He puts the wig on himself. Like that would have been, but we don't want to see the bald cap and your hair, all the glue and all that stuff in your hair either. But that would have been an interesting photo of like, why? What's like, because you take a photo of someone and you see it later on, like, why is this guy dressed as WolfPac Sting, but yet his hair is weird? It's a little strange. What was your relationship like with Darby Allin though? Because obviously, as your father works, you see your father's co-workers randomly from past, present, future. Do you have a relationship? Have you talked to Darby? Like, what's that open dialogue like?
Yeah, so we've been pretty insulated from wrestling for most of our life. Part of it is because in the WCW days, Garrett and I were super young.
Yeah.
And so we're just not around. And then I think, we live in different states now for my dad. And so I'm busy doing my thing. He's busy doing his thing. So we really didn't get integrated in any capacity in the AEW sphere until I'd say the last like 18 months, maybe. I started going to a few of my dad's shows. I knew, he's on this is the retirement tour. Like, these are my last few chances. He was here in LA. So I went to 2 shows here in LA. So just recently, to answer your question, did I get integrated and start to meet any of the guys? Obviously, I met Darby at the first show I went to. And they've got a great dynamic. My dad and Darby and Charlie, who's always along for the ride back there and kind of monumentally important to the operation and how they all function. So really cool dynamic. Obviously, I don't know Darby to the same degree that my dad does. They've spent quite a bit of time on the road together, but yeah.
When you were younger, though, you said you brought it up. How old are you? And saying like, I guess we'll figure out your age in a second, but we'll say when you're younger and your father is on TV and kids at school find out that your father is on TV and you have a birthday party. Do your friends expect to see like Hollywood Hulk Hogan or Kurt Angle or the Giant? Like, are your friends with you for being your friend, or they're like, hey, my dad is famous, and so want to come to my house? Like, what's that relationship like? Because obviously, growing up, you are you, but they might find out your father's famous.
Yeah, and that was, Garrett and I moved schools a lot for a while. There were several times where we moved schools, so you kind of restart the whole process of people find out who your dad is, and you answer that question, a bunch of times over. And we just never really volunteered that information. You just kind of, people will find out, and it is what it is. But it's never been a difficult thing to wonder who our actual friends are. There are definitely acquaintances. Obviously, going into my dad's last match, I got 100 different messages from people. Hey, buddy,
Your first grade best friend.
Yeah. What's the best way of going about getting tickets to Revolution? I'm like, buddy, we haven't talked in 15 years, but there's definitely, I would say, assumptions about what our lifestyle would be like from some of our early friends. That's hilarious to me. People expected that he wore his stuff at the house, or I think there was an assumption that he lived in kind of like a Bruce Wayne setup, compound, which he's compound vibes a little bit, but yeah,
so he has
all sorts of
he has a bat cave. That's what you've confirmed.
There's something like that.
Wow. Oh my God. So your birthdays, did you ever have any strange characters, or your birthdays are just normal birthdays?
You mean, did we dress up?
Well, you were a child, like, were your dad's having cutting the cake or whatever, and there's like wrestlers there because they're friends with your dad and they're hanging out, or is that not the case at all? Because I've talked to people like Lance Anawahi, part of The Rock's family, Roman Reigns' family, and he's like, Hulk Hogan was at my birthday party every year, and I'm like, oh my God, what a weird birthday to have.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if that was the case. I was so little at that time. My brother might remember more than I would, and I know we have every now and then we'll go back to my mom's house up north of us in California, and anytime we're there, she's got all the old photos and videos, so we'll go through them, and we always see photos of all those guys in and around the house, but I don't know what the context was. I don't have any specific memories of Hulk at my birthday or anything like that.
Okay, yeah. Because I'm like, when you think of wrestlers at your birthday party as a child, I'm like, Hulk Hogan just stopping by to give you a Power Ranger for your birthday. Like, to me, that's mind blowing. But at the same time, if that's a normal part of your life, and that just to you is your birthday, your normal day. But what is next though for you and your father? You're gonna go like, what's next? I know you said you live in different states, but at the same time, such a big moment. Is there something, because he still does the circus, he still goes to WrestleCons and does signings? Like, is there a future for you and your father to be more involved in the wrestling aspect, or just in general, like an outside project?
We haven't talked about anything specifically. I'm just going to try to, now that his schedule's a little bit more clear, get him out here to California a little bit more. Get some workouts in with him, nice. Get him back in the water a little bit, and yeah, just I'm trying to get him to enjoy the sunset a little bit.
Well, yes, according to what you said, maybe he doesn't like the sun. He likes to live underground, and he wears his face paint everywhere he goes, grocery shopping, anywhere. Now you put that thought in my brain. It's like, he's, driving his car and he's at a red light and just looks over at someone in the waves and there he is and the paint and the bat pointing at people. Like, that's an intimidating thing to see someone at a red light, but hopefully that's not the case. But hopefully it is. Maybe someone has a great photo.
Yeah, I can confirm he does not just wear his stuff around the house. I can.
You've ruined the story, Steven. You've ruined the story.
This is your show. You do what you want.
We're going to delete that part. And yes, he lives in a bat cave. Confirmed. He said yes. Okay. Very good. No, but seriously though, thank you so much. And what do you have going on personally in your life right now? Because, here we are now. Let's talk about it. What is next for you in the world of just you? Like, what do you have coming up? Any projects? Any outside interests?
Man, of course, I'm not a full-time wrestler. I'm not even a part-time wrestler. So I manage a sports technology company. I work for a company called Bald, sports technology company. And so I'm kind of full steam ahead trying to grow my portion of the enterprise that is Bald. And it's a lot of, there is a bit of content involved in that. And just like the day-to-day operations of kind of trying to grow a somewhat startup-y company. My portion is called Saga. It's actually a sister company, not to bore the audience with my day job, but I manage kind of the sister company involved, which is called Saga. And so just kind of focus on growing Saga and doing the best I can at that right now.
And then what do these companies offer to, what is that actually they do?
Yeah, so Vold's technology is utilized in 90+% of pro and college sports teams at this rate. So like at the NFL Combine, when the players run the 40-yard dash, they run through those laser timing gates. Yeah. Those are Volds. So we produce those. Not any different, but plenty of different pieces of technology that assess human movement. Vold produces. And so Vold launched a sister company called Saga, which is more of a direct consumer. Vold's products are more expensive, contract based. Saga is a direct consumer, and we have one product right now, which is, I'm really going to bore the audience here, but it's blood flow restriction.
This is awesome.
Blood flow restriction cuffs. So they're used in rehabilitation, but also in now in human performance. People who want to build endurance, and there's a bunch of different physiological adaptations you can pull from them. But we sell kind of a tech forwardy blood flow restriction cuff at Saga, and so we have a small team. It's an offshoot of Vold, and so I'm just busy keeping that team together and trying to grow Saga as fast as we can. And obviously, it's something that requires a lot of education because most people don't know what blood flow restriction is unless they've gone to a physical therapy center for a torn ACL or something, and their PT had them use it. So yeah, just building content, educating the audience on what that is, and trying to grow a sports tech company.
Wow. That sounds awesome because again, you're talking about straight to the consumer. Like I imagine, for instance, I'm a little kid and I want to see how fast I can throw a ball or see how fast I can run. Well, having a product that's like that to a consumer versus I'm not the Patriots. I can't afford what the Patriots have. But if I'm a Pee Wee league in town, wouldn't that be great for a coach to, showcase to his kids about like, let's see how fast we can run or the ball is fast. That sounds awesome, dude. Like that's amazing. That sounds like amazing work. So, we talked about WolfPac's thing. We've talked about your business. All I have to say is it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for sharing your experience over Revolution weekend. I was there and I remember just watching that screen of right before your father walked out and it was, it was emotional. Like I was like, hold it in, Steve. Just people are here. Just keep that tear and suck it back up in your face. Like, are you an emotional guy? Like, is there a moment where you're sitting out there being like, don't let your red face paint drip down your face? Is that ever going through your mind?
My wife could probably answer this question pretty well. I'm not the most emotional guy, at least outwardly.
No.
Yeah.
Don't tell her your wife's right.
I just coast like this, but that said, I mean, it was definitely maybe if I was a crier, I would have cried, but it was definitely, I wanted to watch that video. I was super engaged, and it gripped the heart pretty good. His last line, it's showtime for the last time. I didn't know they were going to do that. So that, yeah, man, I got goosebumps for sure. So I'm not just a robot necessarily, but yeah.
Has your wife called you a robot, Steven? Has that happened before?
It is a joke in the house, but it's more so, I just don't get worked up about things.
I
Um,
understand. I'm the opposite.
there you go.
My wife would be like, "Listen, you cry over commercials. Can you calm down for a second?" I'd be like, "But it's so beautiful."
Maybe I just need
But
to interrupt you a little bit, and we'll balance it out. You know what I mean?
perfect. Perfect. I love this idea. The Steve with the PH, Steven, Steve with the V. They've been at war forever, but today we've come together to share experiences one more time, a revolution in your father's thing. Stephen Borden, thank you so much for being here. I appreciate your time and sharing. And I'm Steve, he's Steve, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.